Today, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. held a news conference. This conference comes after Kennedy recently pledged to find the cause of autism. He has given himself some deadlines. Here is Secretary Kennedy.
This is a preventable disease. We know it's an environmental exposure. It has to be. Genes do not cause epidemics. They can provide a vulnerability. You need an environmental toxin. Within 3 weeks, and probably we're hoping in 2 weeks, we're going to announce a series of new studies to identify precisely what the environmental toxins are that are causing it. This has not been done before. And we're going to do it in a thorough and comprehensive way, and we're going to get back to with an answer to the American people very, very quickly. We're going to follow the science no matter what it says, and we will have some of the answers by September.
Neuroscientist and author of the book Autism: The Scientific Truth About Preventing, Diagnosing, and Treating Autism Spectrum Disorders and What Parents Can Do Now. Dr. Robert Melillo joins me. Good evening, sir.
Hi, Greta. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Good. Thank you for joining me. What is autism?
Well, that's a big question, but autism, obviously there are certain symptoms related to it where mainly there's a deficit in nonverbal communication and social interaction. There's repetitive behavior. There's OCD. There's what we call tics and stimming. There's usually inflammation. There's some autoimmune issues. And there can be verbal delays or non-speaking. What's happening in the brain is really the bigger question that I've really searched most of my life for. And what I really think is happening in the brain, I think we've shown, is there's a overall growth alteration and delay and maturational delay that affects primarily growth in the right brain, and we get more advanced growth in the left brain. And this creates an imbalance, and that is where I think the root issue is in the brain and in development of the brain.
Well, could it be environmental exposures or toxins? I mean, there's been a huge, they're all been, everyone's tried to come up with, trying to determine the cause. I mean, for a while it was thought to be thimerosal in one of the vaccines you get as an infant. But is it from environment or is it natural? What do you think it is?
Well, there are environmental factors. So there's a number of different things that we would call epigenetic factors. So, as you heard RFK say, there's no such thing as a genetic epidemic. So it's not gene mutations. What we see is that there are certain alterations in gene expression that can happen in the mother and the father that can actually start preconception. And those are probably due to what we look at as more lifestyle factors that are also causing a rise in other chronic illnesses like diabetes or cancer or hypertension. And those factors can alter gene expression and alter the development of the brain, which is really important because almost 84% of the genes that we have in our body are actually there and are active during brain development. And they are some of the most sensitive genes. But the idea that there's an environmental insult that is injuring the child's brain is not what I believe is happening. I don't believe that is what we see happening. And this is not a brain injury. In fact, when we look at brains of kids with autism, there is obviously no injury and there's no damage and there's no obvious pathology. That's one of the reasons why it's so mysterious. All
right, there's some people with autism, they can't speak, they can't take care of themselves. I mean, they're very extreme. And then as you sort of go up the spectrum a little bit into an area where I think we used to say Asperger's disease. I don't know if that's still a term that's used, but you get to people who are really smart in some areas, and they can do things that some of the rest of us can't do. So what is that? I mean, is that an autism? Is that something different? Why are they so smart at some things that the rest of us are not?
They're all that way. The fact is that with my research, what we've been able to do is we work with a lot of non-speaking kids, and with the right type of technique and provocation, and they can actually be taught how to type on a letterboard, and they can spell. And these are kids that many of them we feel like they don't even know. Most of their therapists or people around them don't think they even know a letter recognition, and then they come in and we find that they actually not only know letters, they know words, they can answer questions, and many of them are typing out full sentences and really in a very sophisticated way. There are many books written by people that have grown up with nonverbal, non-speaking autism that have written books about their experience, that they know what's happening. They're smarter than most people and they actually know it, but they don't feel their body. They can't control their body. And this is why they can't speak. It's not an intellectual deficit. It's not a problem with the left verbal centers of the brain. It's more of a problem with the right side and not feeling the body and not building maps in the body. And that is really one of my main areas of research. So the idea is that it almost starts with them being geniuses with their left brain, and that kind of loads the gun.
Can it be this in a very awkward term, but not fixed? But I mean, is there something we can do about the people who really? I mean, some people really suffer from a severe deficit. Is this just where they're going to be forever?
No, not at all. I mean, that's what my mission is. That's what we work with every day. And what we see is that because there is no genetic mutation, there is no injury to the brain, and the fact that there is this growth developmental issue that can be altered or corrected for, we can change the brain significantly. We have many, many, many children that have completely lost their diagnosis. The further it goes on, the longer it goes on, the harder it may be to get them to speak, but it is possible. But we can get them to communicate with a letterboard, eventually maybe transition to typing. And so ideally so that they can learn, they can go to school, they can show us how smart they are, because they are brilliant. They're incredibly gifted kids, almost every one of them.
Yeah, it's just amazing. Anyway, and of course it's very tough on some families, with the situation too. Doctor, thank you very much for joining me, sir.
Thank you, Greta.